Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Art of Vinemaking Journey informational session. Well, it looks like this is the session, but we had some technical difficulties in our recording earlier today, and we wanted to make sure that you at least had something. So, hello to those that were not able to make it today or trying to access the recording, and you were live today for the second time. We first want to say that because there's only three of us on this call. But hello, we're so excited to be with you. I have here with me Betty Dickinson, who is the heart, the visionary, the art of the book, The Art of Winemaking, and with another one of the guides who's joining us, Brenda Renderos. Myself, my name is Rachel Wade, and we're missing some of our team, the vine dresser, Dave. We're missing Susie, one of our other guides with us, and we're missing our assistant, Kara. But hello, Betty. Hello, Brenda. How are you today?
Great.
I'm
Yes.
doing great.
Doing great.
We're
Great.
rolling with it.
We're running with it. We wanted you all to have something and see our faces and at least hear a bit of our heart behind the Art of Winemaking Journey Sonoma, and why we want you to join us on this cohort and in-person retreat. And so, Betty, we'll start with you. Why the Art of Winemaking Journey? What is your heart behind it? Um, and anything else that you'd like to share for those that are watching.
Yeah, so I'm happy to share that. I know you also have to go, Rachel. So do you
Yeah.
want to share first and then you can
Yeah,
take off and I will share the rest?
absolutely. So I talked about earlier today in our group recording that I got to sit underneath Betty's direction and just being in her presence at a different type of retreat. And there, just being with her, I recognize what a peaceful presence she is. I recognize her heart for us to want to sit with the Father and move slower and just really, I had never really practiced, a lot of embodied prayer and a lot of breath work and things that I wasn't used to in my faith and my journey. And so my why is I want to get more time with Betty and I wanted to co-labor alongside her. The Art of Winemaking Journey specific to Sonoma is near and dear to my heart because living here in San Francisco, California, I am in what we call the tech corridor. This is Silicon Valley and the hustle and the bustle, whether you are a full-time stay-at-home parent or whether you have three businesses and you're an entrepreneur, um, everyone, men and women, is very hurried. It is hard for us to break and to rest and to pause and to be in our bodies and with the Lord. And so I'm excited for the Art of Winemaking Journey to provide this space, not just in person, but online, even the months following, where we can push back against what the world is saying no to, essentially. And so that's my why. That's my heart behind wanting to be a guide and be a part of this opportunity, but also wanting to invite others in. So there you are.
Thank you, Rachel.
I
We'll let
hope
you
to
go
see
because I
you.
know you've got other things going on.
I hope to
But
see you on the journey, everyone.
that's right. That's right. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
So
Rachel.
I'll just say from here, this journey started for me 6 years ago when I was commissioned to do a painting on the pruned vine and a written devotional piece. And I really felt that I wanted to talk to an actual vine dresser about pruning and why pruning and what happens in pruning from the vine dresser's perspective in order to write this piece and to do this painting. And so I live in Traverse City, Michigan, and we have a growing wine region in this area. Maybe people don't know that, but we are a growing wine region. And I met with my friend Dave Boss, and he's a vine dresser in this area. Does organic farming. And one of the first questions that I asked him was, what do vine dressers pay attention to when tending vines? And what he shared with me next began to totally reshape the way I view the spiritual life with just one offhand comment where he was just like, vine dressers actually don't pay much attention to the fruit.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know about you and your context, but in my ministry world at the time, we tend to pay a lot of attention to the fruit. And so this was this was a huge paradigm shift for me, because what he said though is what good vine dressers do is they pay attention to the health, the quality, and the vitality of the vine. And if you pay attention to those things, fruit will be the natural byproduct. And so I was just this began just like leading me on a totally different journey of understanding what does that even mean, and could it be that a vine dresser cares more about our flourishing and our health and quality and vitality than the fruit that we produce, and that the
Yeah.
fruit could actually be this overflow of a longer cyclical rhythm where actually the harvest in real vines is only just a few short weeks, but the rest of the year it's in seasons of dormancy and seasons of growing and ripening, and all throughout the vine dresser is doing what he can to cultivate flourishing and to care and to tend for the vine. And that I just learned so much from Dave and the way that he loves vines. And so, this, of course, I walked with him through the vineyards for 6 years throughout different seasons, trying to pay attention to what he does, and began translating his wisdom in viticulture into the spiritual life, and to help us think through John 15 maybe in a different way than for those of us who've been so disconnected from the land. Because Jesus's hearers, when he talked about this, would have understood this like organically and
Yeah.
naturally, and understood these rhythms that they're part of it. And so I created this book on those things, but I also felt that I wanted to lead people with me to be on this journey, to be able to take people into the vineyards with me, to have an experience that I had had of sort of this awakening and awe of, oh my goodness, could our lives look more like this, look more like flourishing, look more like abiding through the seasons and letting growth emerge naturally instead of forcing it. And so the Art of Vinemaking journey is sort of an overflow of that, where it begins with a retreat for a few days where we get into the vineyards. We do a lot of embodied spiritual practices, and really trying to help lean into relational connection with each other and with God, with creation, in our bodies. And one of the reasons we cultivated it this way is that neuroscience has shown in the last 15 years that we are more shaped in our character on the right side of the brain than our left. And the right side
Mhm.
of the brain is our experiences in the body. It's a relational connection. It's connection in our imagination. And we have these experiences that really form us. And then the left side of the brain, which are words, analytical thinking, sort of kicks in to put words to what we just experienced. Now, in our world right now, we are often discipled primarily on the left side of the brain with theology, scripture study, lectures, preaching. Those are all great things, but there aren't very many experiences where we're intentionally formed the way that our brain was designed on the right side. And so the retreat is designed to give us that kind of experience of connection. So, yeah, it's sensing, tasting, touching, experiencing in the vineyard with beautiful, rich food and community. And then it kicks off this year-long journey where we actually follow the vine through each of the seasons and learn different spiritual practices that can help us be formed in different seasons of the vine, that can help us become aware of how God might be at work in a season of dormancy, which is different than how God is at work in our lives during harvest, for example. And so it's this intensive, these intensives that go along one after the other. So that's kind of an overview of the experience. And so, Brenda, I love that you're here with me, and I would love to hear from you as one of our guides. What brought you to this journey, and why are you excited about it?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, you just talked about all the different ways that you're helping us to engage not just our, processing the cognitive part of ourselves, but also the physical part of ourselves and our bodies. How do we reconnect? Our bodies are God's creation, and that there's an invitation to connect with our bodies and the way that God speaks through our bodies as well. And I feel like that's just really rare to see and to be able to experience. So the fact that you are just creating these spaces and you're so intentional about how this retreat and how the cohort is even put together to make sure that we are just touching on all the different parts of who we are. is such a beautiful invitation to for us to be able to get reintegrated. And so that's a huge part of it. The other part is that is it's the work that I do and the space that I live in is really in that crossroads of justice and soul care and faith. And having a background in working for a church, being in vocational ministry, and then having resigned, and then being in a space of social justice and partnering alongside different people, I've just been able to see so many people that have such a deep care and love for the world, and there's constantly more and more that's being asked of them because there's just, the need's never going to stop, right?
Mhm.
The people, those who are in need, they will always be with us. It never stops. And there's always a sense of more urgency. You need to give more, you need to be more, you need to do more. And there's this sort of quiet wrestling that happens within us of, I just don't know how much longer I can keep
Mhm.
doing this. And it's not because anyone has stopped caring, it's they just care so much. And so a lot of the work that I've done has been with people where they are feeling stuck. They're trying to figure out what a next step is. They're almost afraid to ask the question, is there a more sustainable way to live? It
Mhm.
almost feels selfish to ask that question. And so that's where I've usually done a lot of my work. And that is what helped me really connect with the work that you're doing and the book that you wrote, especially that whole concept of the fruit not being the main focus of everything. We just use it in our language, right?
Mhm.
You'll know them by their fruit. We want to produce good fruit. I very rarely hear talking about the soil or the air or the vine or what happens with the branches. Nobody wants to be the branches, right? They're being thrown away. Like what is that all about? And hearing and like reading the book and hearing from Dave and from Susie, and who are experts in that field, and learning from people who are actually have their hands in the dirt and they really know what they're talking about in that area. And then your journey with them just opened up a whole different world that I think has always existed. And this is just an invitation to be able to say, hey, to step into this understanding of what the Lord is inviting us into. And that's a huge word for me, invitation. This isn't about performance. This isn't about walking away with new strategies. This is an invitation to be still just long enough to see what's happening inside of us in our souls and what is God inviting us into.
Mhm.
And it's not a burden that's going to break us. That's never been
Mhm.
his intent, never been his
Mhm.
intent. And so that is really my excitement in being a part of this and continuing the journey. And I'm just really hopeful that there'll be a variety of people that would want to be a part of this, whether you are in vocational ministry, you're in the private sector. I truly believe, and I know you do too, that whether you're getting paid or not paid for this, you're in ministry no matter what. And so, what does this look like to show up in those spaces with for your families, private sector, church, whatever that looks like? Man, I love just hearing what God is doing in people's lives in all of those spaces and how we can come alongside of each other.
Yes, I love that, Brendan. I love that you're a part of the journey with us. And I just want to give, for those of you watching this later, I want to just give you kind of a picture of what the journey looks like and maybe some kind of answer some of the questions that came up during our call earlier. So, one is that there's several of us guides, Brenda, myself, Dave Boss, who is a local vine dresser who has experience working in California and here in Traverse City, and Sonoma area is near and dear to his heart, as well as Susie Lips, who's from Sonoma, and she is has a business called Conversations in the Vineyard, where she has experience bringing people into the vineyard and teaching leadership practices and principles from the vine, which is beautiful. As well as you heard of course, also from Rachel Wade, who's local in the area too. And the retreat kicks off May 17th. We'll have a real informal time to just gather, settle, connect with each other, meet each other. And there will be the next day, we'll spend half of the day in the vineyard, just engaging in sensory grounding practices and feeling and touching and tasting the vine and getting to be able to be in the vineyard. I will be curating an audio guided walk component that will both help you engage sensory and sort of spiritually what's happening within you. We're going to be in a season of flowering when we get to May, and that'll be really fun to see. There's a lot of spiritual implications for what that means in the vine, which is just really fun to explore. Dave will be with us and he'll be able to answer a lot of questions around vine dressing. And I hope that, like me, and I know that you all have your minds blown because every time I talk to Dave, he gives me a totally different mindset of what the vine dresser actually is like. How the vine dresser deeply cares for the vine, and how pruning isn't punishment but love, and all these different ways of engaging with him and asking questions and then debriefing together. And then the rest of the day, we'll just spend some time kind of resting, retreating, reconnecting with God and each other. The second day, we'll be doing a lot of embodied spiritual practices to help us abide in the true vine. Some of the spiritual practices we did in the Traverse City community are things like embodied prayer, Visio Divina, of reflecting on a painting as a way of prayer, or Ignatian spiritual practices. And so each of us guides will be leading different workshops to help you connect with God, to facilitate encounters with God and connection with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
over the course of the retreat, we'll be having a small group that will meet together. And just to say, too, that this cohort, the cap is really 28 people. So there will be no more than 28. It's going to be a smaller group, so it won't feel so overwhelming, that you can be kind of enter in. And in terms of the demographics, we talked a little bit about this. Our desire, I feel particularly called to serve leaders, especially women and ministry leaders. But in particular for Sonoma, we also wanted to make sure that this was a safe place for people of color. And so those are some of the heart behind the community that we're trying to cultivate there, and creating a sense of safety and belonging for each person who comes. But the beauty of being a part of this small group is that the same small group that you're in during the retreat, you'll be continuing to meet with over the cohort. And we'll close the retreat with sort of this celebratory meal with dessert and wine that will feel like this kingdom feast and sort of this embodied taste of the kingdom of God. And that will then launch us into a cohort journey. Now, we're not actually meeting with our cohorts until the fall because the summer is a little bit crazy. So we may have an informal Zoom gathering sometime over the summer just to reconnect. But officially, the cohort launches in September, which will go through the book. It will go through the online course materials, which include video interviews with Dave, the vine dresser, and myself in the vineyard to talk about what's happening in the vine and how to translate that into the spiritual life. There will be audio and video guided spiritual practices like Visio Divina, or audio guided walks that kind of help anchor you and your body and companion you on the journey. And then reflective practices and questions to help you actually integrate your learning. And these intensives meet weekly, just for an hour and a half. Most of the time is spent in small group to debrief what we've been experiencing and learning and praying for one another. There will be a little bit of guided spiritual practice in that time to hold the space also. But you meet for 4 weeks, just an hour and a half each week as you go through the material. And then there will be a break for a month or two. Then you do another intensive. And that pattern will go all the way basically through the calendar year. And the reason we set it up this way is we found, and in hearing feedback even from the journey participants who went on the Traverse City journey this past year, they said there's something really special about getting to be at a retreat, to make those relational connections, to not feel the pressure to like get it all in one sitting, where a lot of times you go to a retreat and it's comes and it goes and then you move on. This is actually trying to help us go more deeply in both community and the transformation that takes place over the course of a year as we try to figure out what does it mean to live this flourishing way instead of this productivity driven way, which is a whole different paradigm shift that we're learning over the course of the journey. And so That's sort of the brass tacks of what it looks like. We'll be meeting in 4 weeks in September, 4 weeks November, 4 weeks in February, and 4 weeks, I believe, in April or May. And yeah, so in terms of the logistics of how to get signed up and, what do I do now? The early bird deadline has been extended until February 5th. And so I just really encourage you, if you're considering this, that you apply. It's a $50 application fee. And we really do feel committed to making sure this is accessible for as many people as want to come. And so the $2,500 can be spaced in payments over the course of the year. We also really want people to feel comfortable applying for scholarship support if that's needed. But we really want to encourage you, if you're considering this now, to apply now, because the early bird deadline means that you'll save $250 unless if you wait, you'll be spending that amount on that. And so the place that we'll be meeting for the retreat is called Bishop's Ranch, and it's set among these beautiful vineyards. There's lots of beautiful spaces to just retreat and rest. You can even request, if you really need to be rooming by yourself. There is an extra fee for that, but generally you'll be in a room with one other person. You can request a roommate if you're coming with a friend. And if you wanted to bring a group, if there's 5 or 10 of you, please reach out to me or my assistant Kara, because we can offer you a group discount. And so, yeah, anything I'm missing there, Brenda? Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I really just want to highlight the rhythm of the retreat and the cohort. Like you said, I think so many of us have experienced great conferences and retreats. Like, these are wonderful experiences, but with that has sometimes come this feeling like you've just been fire hosed, and it's so much to take in because everything is back to back to back to back. Or you had a wonderful, like, they talk about the whole mountaintop experience, but then you got to come back down and now, jump into life. Now, what do I do with that? I love that that has really been thought through. It is a gentle rhythm to experience. So being at the retreat, it's not being put together where it's information overload, but we are connecting all of the practices that you talked about will connect with all the parts of who we are. And then after the retreat, the cohort, just the pacing of that is beautiful, the way it coincides with the seasons. And it's 4 weeks, and then there's a break in between to now let me just give me some time to actually live this out before we go on to the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then connect. And in the in between, you can still be connecting with your small group. You'll be in a group chat, and just people still connecting and sharing their stories, and just beautiful relationships flourishing from that. So I personally appreciate the gentleness in the approach. It is doable. It's not one more big lump to put on our plate. It is doable, it is digestible. It gives us opportunity to really metabolize what it is that God is doing in our life. And so I just want to encourage people that it's a gentle pace, it's invitational, it is warm, it is receiving. It's a chance for you to catch your breath and be able to grow. And so really hope to see people there. One question that did come up that we all kind of chuckled at, but we loved the question because it was an honest question. I respect the question. It was honest. Are you going to have us doing labor in the you said working vineyard, and are we, I mean, should we be bringing clothes and boots and gloves? Are we going to be like, are we working in
Good question, Brenda. Thank you for restating that. Yeah, no, I
there?
had to laugh because I understand it. And also, there was, especially for our Traverse City retreat when we met in Harvest, there was a thought around, ooh, it would be fun to harvest together. But the actual purpose behind getting in the vineyard is not to work. It's like the opposite. We want to actually create a space of rest. And abiding and just being fully present to our bodies, to one another, and to God. And so we won't be doing any work necessarily, although, I think there could be opportunities if people wanted to, if the vine dressers and the hosts of the vineyard, the owners of the vineyard are okay with us, maybe doing a little bit of pruning and just feeling what that feels like if that's the season for it, or suckering, kind of pulling some things off, but only everything is all by invitation, not by force or pressure, and only by an invitation to an experience that might be fun and
Yeah.
experiential. And so, but we're just truly looking forward to creating the kind of space that a lot of us don't have. I think some people, especially if you live in the Sonoma area, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many good options. What makes this one different than all the other cool things that I could be doing? I think the thing that makes this unique is the opportunity to actually get in a vineyard and to actually talk to a vine dresser who is a follower of Jesus and who also cares deeply for his vines and loves teaching other people about it. And so those are some of the unique aspects of it that are very embodied, and that it isn't a retreat that feels like drinking out of a fire hose or information dump, but is designed to be restorative so that you come home more refreshed and more, and some things are percolating in you that you can then
Yeah.
unpack over the course of the year. So
Yeah.
we just invite you to join us. We'll have in this email, we'll have further information about how to get signed up. But feel free to ask questions, especially you can email Kara, my assistant, who's going to be sending this email, and we would love to see you there.